Good evening and welcome to Information Please, your Peoria Public Library in the air, bringing you information about your library and your community. And this evening I'm happy to welcome back Stacy Peterson so she can tell us about all the exciting new exhibits, music, and programs going on at Peoria Public Library. Hey, Stacy.
Hey, Tricia.
Well, once again, I've yanked you out of your office to come in here, get off the phone, stop planning. Tell us what you're planning.
Oh my gosh. Where do we start?
I don't know. Let's talk about music because, you know, music is such a happy thing and it can be expensive, but at the library it's always free.
It's always free, like pretty much all of our programs.
Yeah.
But we are continuing. I'm so happy about this because you and I have been promoting this since the very beginning.
Yeah.
2 years ago, we started the Music in the Mackenzie series. It's always on a Sunday afternoon from 2 o'clock until 4 o'clock, generally 2 sets, 45 minutes each with a break. And we tell people you can come in, you can leave, you can do whatever you want. Usually there are CDs for sale, and those CD proceeds go to our friends of the Peoria Public Library because we couldn't do all these programs without their help and support. So we are back for 2014. We've already had 2 concerts. In January, it was so cold. Remember how cold? It was terrible. Yes. So we kicked off our first concert with a local group, the Brazilianaires. They play samba music, and what's really interesting about the Brazilianaires, they bring their own vibe. They are very talented musicians, but they have real day jobs. And I'm talking real day jobs. We've got a neurologist who sings, a graphic person, IT expert who plays guitar, and then some professional musicians and professors in the band as well. Nice. They warmed up the Mackenzie room. They were really incredible. And then in February, we had, and I'm going to start calling Peoria Little Nashville because I've been hiring a lot of acts from the Nashville area, right out of Nashville. A trio called the Wild Ponies. A husband and wife, Doug and Talisha, and they added a drummer, and the drummer used brushes, so it was kind of nice and quiet, and they brought kind of that rockabilly Americana back, which is what we've kind of built into this series. Folk music, acoustic music, and something that I think is cross-generational, and they really kind of brought that. So now, coming up for March, we are bringing back, we brought back a few favorites this year. We were lucky that we were kind of in their touring pattern. So from the Quad Cities on March 30th, we have Trillium coming back.
Oh, nice.
It'll be perfect. It's St. Patrick's Day. They play Celtic music. They do bluegrass. They do jazz. It's a quartet. They're really fun. They've got a dulcimer. They were so popular last year. I'm just really thrilled to have them back again. And they've got a couple of CDs out. So that'll be March.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
But we also have visual arts.
We have visual arts. We have a couple of really interesting things, and I know we'll talk about our newest visual art in our most unusual of spaces because that's got some other things too. But primarily, we're looking at visual arts again in our gallery. So in January, we had a really lovely exhibit that was celebrating the Hindu community and the 150th birthday of their Swami. And then right now in February, we are featuring a solo show with Chicago artist. She's been transplanted here, Trish Williams. And in the gallery until the end of the month, you'll be able to see beautiful artistic quilts, dolls, wearable fibers, and Trish works with her own fabric. She dyes her fabric. She does hand felting. She does absolutely everything. And by day, she's the gallery manager for Jonathan Romaine Studios on Sheridan Road, Sheridan, Nebraska. But she's also a creative artist in her own right. And she'd met John when he was up doing the art fair circuit in Chicago and came down and started working in his gallery. And we were lucky enough to meet and kind of grab her and bring her in for February.
Oh, yeah. And some of the things she said is it's talking about growing up with women who quilted and sewed and learning how to put things together and acquiring her love of the colors. And I know a lot of quilters love that. I mean, they'll just go to a quilt store just to fondle the fabric and surround themselves with color. And lovely thing to be doing when there's not much color outside.
And it looks beautiful in that gallery space. And the last time that we showed quilts, it was wildly popular, and they were more traditional quilts. And we did that quilt and stoneware. And the gallery looked really striking with those quilts hanging on the wall. And this has been another nice way to showcase that incredible gallery space. And I'm glad that you made mention of the women in Trish's life, because in March, which is National Women's History Month, of course,
Yes.
we are going to have a series of artists that are part of this fiber cooperative with Trish Williams. She's curating the show. It's Blue World, Green World, and it's going to be all kinds of art from female artists, not just
Nice.
from Peoria. It's going to be just absolutely exquisite. March 8th is going to be our reception for that. And then down in our Wheeler case, I really hope everybody gets a chance to see the Wheeler for February and for March. Right now for February, we have an artist named Troy Davis. Troy Davis is a veteran, and I met him through our veterans exhibit that
Oh,
we've had for the last 2
nice.
years. And when he was done with his military service, he decided to go off and he became an organic farmer and he raised chickens. And then he started doing artwork. And he's very much inspired by nature and by Native American culture. So he has on display currently these mandalas that are absolutely detailed and really interesting. He brings in elements of mythology and nature, and then some of his nature drawings. So that's February, that's lower level 2. Always visible, walk by and just go see the 8 pieces that he has up. In March, also because of the Veterans Art Show, I met a really interesting female veteran from Galesburg, and she works with mixed media, and she's got her pieces on display. Her name is Sherry. She will be in March, Wheeler Case, the entire month. So I hope
Nice.
people get a chance to come down and really
yeah.
appreciate what they've done. So
Yeah.
that's a great space too down there, that
It is.
Wheeler.
It is. Just to wander through, it's well worth just hopping the elevator or taking the stairs and, just taking a peek of what we've got going. And so many people
Yeah.
are in our auditorium anyway. It's right there, easy to see, or at the Friends bookstore.
Yeah, and while you're there, going to pick up a book. It's so
Yeah.
packed with stuff in there. They would love to see more people come in and help take some stuff off the shelves.
Yes,
because they have no
absolutely.
shortage of new books. So
Absolutely.
we love our Friends group.
Yeah, we do, and we should give them a little push too. That they, we used to have that one big sale once a year, and I'm not sure people still understand that there's thousands and thousands of books every day that they're open.
Yes.
And so, yeah.
And it's really nice. The other day I was down there and there were so many people shopping, and I realized that they were doing a training session in the auditorium and they were taking a break and they were all in there, and I could hear people talking about it and saying, well, this looks like it's up all the time. And I turned around with my hand on my hip and said, it is. It's all the time, and we have the best volunteers you'll ever meet. So,
Yeah.
please come in and shop and support it. It's just a
Yeah.
great place.
Yeah.
Great place.
A lot of things to do at the library.
A lot of things to do. And of course, we
Okay.
do have some returning exhibits that I'll just make mention.
Yes.
We're going to have the Congressional Art Show again. And there will not be a reception in April, but that first Saturday in May, we always have a really lovely reception. Congressman Schott comes in, gives the awards. The teachers are there, the parents are there. And usually we joke that it's the most amount of art that we've ever had packed into the gallery space.
Yeah.
So
well,
that
and you called it a returning exhibit.
It is.
But it's really not, because every single piece is new.
that's true.
No one will have seen them.
That's
it's
true.
just, same name, but all new art.
Right. We
And
always,
always
I should
sing.
say, we are hosting it once again.
Yeah.
And this, by the same token, we have the Rennick Art Show right after that.
Yes.
One of the longest running juried art shows. Again, all new work, co-sponsored by the Historical Society. Returning again is the annual Illinois Art League member show. So we will have all new art, but we've had the IAL in there before. Caterpillar will be in September again with the next round of ads, and then we have a lot of new stuff planned for this year and into next. So come in,
Nice,
go to local
nice.
history, check out our gallery.
That'd be great. And talking about the Rennick show, that's with the Historical Society, and I have tried to find when the library started doing that, and I got back into the 40s.
Yeah.
And it may have gone on before then, because, of course, before we had a museum here, the library was the Center for the Arts. And we used to have the Peoria Art Institute that kept their paintings at the library back in the old building.
Yes.
The one that was built in the 1890, opened in the 1890s. But the Rennick show is something people need to think about right now
Yes.
if they want to enter. And if you're not an artist who has enough to put on a show by yourself, this is one of those things that you can start small. If you're a photographer, you're an artist, this is the thing you want to enter. And we have the entry forms. You work with the Historical Society closely, so they're on the
They're on the
website.
Peoria Historical Society website. They can access them through our website. They can certainly call us, call our office, the programming department at the library. We'd be happy to email them to you. We try to make it very accessible because we get a huge age range of applicants for this show because it is long running. So there are many people who don't have access to the internet and can't get it. I'll mail it to you, just mail it back and we'll get you into the show. So we want to make it easy for you to have that opportunity to see your work up in a gallery. It's really a treat to see people have that experience in that space.
Very excited
and of course,
about
we'll have a reception. It'll be the Saturday before Mother's Day because we don't want to conflict with Mother's Day Race for the Cure. There's always an art fair in the Heights at that time. So be on the lookout and checking passages for that schedule.
And be sure to enter. If you're the least bit artistic bone in your body, this is what the library does, is provides these pathways for our community. And while you might not ever get anything hung in a museum, certainly the rest of the community can appreciate what you can do in this way.
And I have to give a lot of credit to the Historical Society. Only a couple of years ago, they've really developed this and developed it and made it grow. And a great deal of that has to do with Marjorie Schweibel, who's a photographer herself. But only up until a few years ago did they start allowing photography, because they fully recognized that with the advent of the digital camera, photography just exploded. And so to their credit, even though it's the Historical Society and they like to preserve things that are indeed historical, they are certainly seeing a way to accommodate this growing population and acknowledge their work in the art community as well. So, don't think, oh, I'm just a hobbyist and I just pick up my digital camera. There's a place for you in this show, and the Illinois Art League for that. But that Historical Society Rennick show is a really nice one to be involved in.
Yeah, it is. It is. And so I hope people call and get the application, start thinking about what they can enter. That'll be great.
Exactly.
So, programs.
Well, we've got all kinds of programs. We want people to be very aware of story times. So all of our library locations have story times. Our web calendar is the best place to see that. It is not too soon to think about it. At this point, the pool's going to be open in less than 100 days. That means summer reading is coming. So, start picking up those story times, getting those kids involved now. We're going to be bringing back some very exciting things for summer reading, including movies that are going to fit along with that theme of pause to read. Does not have to be just a dog or a cat. If you have a fish or if you have a lizard, you're very welcome to participate in this. So we've got that going on as well. And we are bringing back after tax season, because we always have the lovely core of AARP volunteers who come in. They help out with tax season.
We should point out, though, that they changed because they're in such high demand. Now you must have an appointment, and you must make that appointment in person. But we do have a page on our webpage, or you can call, or you can look at the AARP and website, and they will tell you the dates. But it doesn't do any good to call the library. We can't make an appointment for you. You must make one in person. But MedTech is also doing free taxes. A lot of people are anxious to know that. They
are, and they will have a big presence during Money Smart Week. So that week of like April 6th through the 12th, I believe, is Money Smart Week this week. So be on the lookout. MedTech's going to have tax help. They're also going to have job fair help. They're going to do all of those kind of things. Money Smart Week is such a hugely publicized event in the Peoria area. And we like to have things in all of our locations for that as well. And as soon as tax season wraps up, we're going to be bringing in a documentary film series on the third Thursday of every month. Starting in April all the way until December, we are going to have this incredible documentary series featuring some kind of different documentary every month. We've done historical films, we've done foreign films, we've done films about food, but it's the first time since the renovation that we've had this dedicated documentary series. So there will be something for everyone.
And people have asked for that too, particularly our retired folks who have very active minds and are still in the lifelong learning mode. Love the documentaries, and great chance to see something you probably wouldn't see otherwise.
That's true. And along with that, something that's very interesting that's coming up on March 31st, which is a Monday night at the North Branch in the seminar room. There's a gentleman who lives in town, and his name is Pastor Bob Good. I call him Be Good Bob, because whenever I see him, he has a huge smile on his face, and he always into promoting community sustainability. And Pastor Good has done all kinds of things. He has worked with labor relations. He has worked in public relations. He drove a cab in Chicago and in Detroit, but he's from Peoria. And he came back to Peoria to be, I'm not going to disclose his age, but he is a little bit older. And he came back to be closer to family. He wound up writing 2 books. And the books are really interesting because they are under the guise of fiction. So you could just read the book and think it's just a story. But then after you start talking to them, there's a deeper message there. And it's a message of community sustainability and how we are as individuals parts of a community, which is so important no matter where you live, that we realize that we are all interwoven together. So Pastor Bob is going to come out on the 31st to the North Branch, and he just wants to kind of talk about how he decided to weave these themes into something like fiction. And you know, he welcomes people to come out and discuss the books if they've purchased the books from him. But we're really going to just kind of talk and pick his brain. It's going to be a really fun night.
Oh, yeah.
So people need to come out and just to enjoy Bob, because talking to him is just it's a breath of fresh air. He's a guy you want to be your neighbor. You know, he will champion all the good things in Peoria. So 31st at 6 o'clock out in the seminar room.
Great, that will be a good discussion. And I think that, you know, with the elections coming up and with people seeing, you know, all the things that have gone on, everything from the tornado to the deficit in the Illinois budget, people are concerned about this, that we don't exist all by ourselves. We need to help each other. So that's
It's
great.
important. And you know, I think it's really nice that we're also doing it at the North Branch for the reason that we get a lot, and I don't know how many people realize this. We have these beautiful meeting rooms, we know that. We get a lot of homeowner associations who come out and use our meeting room spaces for their monthly or quarterly meetings. And it's wonderful to hear the kind of discussions that they have, because they are so concerned about each other and their neighbors. And I'm hoping that maybe we'll get some of that critical mass from those groups to come out and participate, because they do have a successful model of living in these small communities. Now we need to kind of bridge those gaps and make us all a little bit more unified.
Yeah, get out of just the neighborhood and think out a little further. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned story times, but we also always have crafts.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And some art things too, which several of our locations actually are doing some small. You can't do a lot in a place where you don't have smocks and sinks for cleanup, but
or your dad's shirt, you know, that you wear backwards and hang on a hook.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know, it's I'm glad that you point that out, because the nice thing about the crafts at the library, you know, you can have parents who maybe school was called off and they think, what am I going to do with my kids? Maybe it's a make it and take it day. They can run into their library branch, grab a craft, take it home with them.
Yeah.
You know, if they don't have the time to do it there in the facility, or if the kids are running around picking out a book, or, you know, they do have that option. So our librarians
something to take home and do while you're trying to fix dinner.
Exactly.
But there's some kids who just can't get enough of that. And although you might do it with them at home, you know, or they're doing art at school or whatever, still to have one more place where you can do that is great.
It's so important, so important. And we did, I have to say that the children's librarians and some of the programming staff were lucky enough to be treated to kind of I'm going to just say, for lack of better words, an audition process. So we have not confirmed any of these acts, but we have some really exciting acts coming up too. We'll save that for another show, because we need to get dates set on them.
Yeah, need to get them all set down and all.
But we saw some things ranging from music to juggling to magic to a rocket scientist who we're really trying to get. So we want those kids to make sure that they can come out, free programs, and really take advantage of all of our library locations.
Yeah. Well, and we should remind parents that during spring break, which about 80% of the kids who go to Dunlap schools have Peoria addresses, which means they fall within the Peoria Public Library venue.
Right.
And our customers of Peoria Public Library, their spring break falls the week before District 150, so we have 2 weeks of kids out of school.
Yeah.
Not everybody can afford to go to Disney World, but coming to the library can be almost as much fun. Certainly you can keep people very busy between the activities and the things you can take home to do.
Oh yeah, you can go to 7 countries every single day at the library. You know, check out a book, get a DVD, book on tape. You can travel the world and not even have to leave your home.
Yeah,
so.
well, it's a way to sneak in some learning without learning, and even just I know kids probably have projects and assigned reading and all that, but that's the thing that's great about reading on a break or reading over the summer is let them read what they want. They're so programmed and so, you know, having to meet goals and read specific things, and that's important.
It is so
I'm not
important.
saying it's not important, but that is important, but it's also important to let these kids just read for pleasure.
It is.
And that's why it's important to let them come into the library, wander, pick what you want.
And I think it's also important to note that we have wonderful staff that can give
Yes.
recommendations. And at a lot of our branches, you will see bookmarks sticking out of books that are staff picks. They can pick out books from the comfort of their own home with Tumble Books or with our regular library checkout system. If you like a certain book, there's actually a button there that says see something more like this author, or click on this for something shelved next to it. And you could say, wow, I really like this book, this nonfiction book on winemaking. And then you'll get other options. So go ahead and make your wish list and then come into the library and we'll help you find that book, or just wander.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just the best way to find some of those
browsing.
things.
And that's some of that browsing on the catalog from home thing has kind of taken away what was the periodic, come in and just wander the shelves to see something. So I want to remind people to do that too.
Definitely.
Just wander the shelves, check out the new bookshelf, because you could be missing things.
That new bookshelf, I tell you, we look at those stickers when they come in, and we are so excited to see the new month of new books come in and see the fresh meat on the shelves and pick stuff out. So I think, that's a wonderful point. And all of our library locations have that new book selection area. If you can't find it, ask one of our librarians, ask one of our
they'll show
reference
you
staff.
right where
They'll
it
walk
is.
you
Yeah,
right
if you've
to
been
it.
putting everything on reserve at home and picking it up off the hold shelf and not venturing past the self-check,
you're missing out.
Time to dive back in.
Right.
Dive back into those books.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and of course, we're still doing Peoria Reads, which has been Warriors Don't Cry by Melba Patilla Beals, who was one of the Little Rock Nine. This year has been so different for Peoria Reads because rather than focusing all of our activities in one month, we have spread it out over the year.
Yeah.
And that has given us the opportunity to do a lot of cool things, including our exhibit we've had for a while now, all through the end of January and most of February, but it's still here with us till March 6th.
March 6th.
Is Changing America, the Emancipation Proclamation, 1863, and the March on Washington, 1963, celebrating their 150th and 50th anniversaries. I never knew that the March on Washington was planned for the anniversary of the Emancipation Proclamation. So even I, who know everything, learned something new from this exhibit.
Well, and it's a striking exhibit.
It's
I'm like
amazing.
you. I didn't know that either. And we've been so lucky to partner with like Bradley University this year and have additional programs that have enhanced the understanding of that book and have cultivated dialogue. And when you walk into that first floor of the library, of the main library,
you can't miss it.
You can't miss it. And the images they are beautiful. Some of them are haunting. They are all provocative. And it is definitely one of those exhibits where I've never heard so many people stop and want to tell their story. And that's really what this whole year has been about. We've been so lucky to be involved in classes with Ollie and going to Bradley and talking to people in our Peoria Reads Committee. The book has an abridged and an unabridged version, so the younger kids can understand it. John Lewis wrote a companion graphic novel about his experience. And those who lived through it, their stories are incredible. And those of us who didn't live through it are learning so much more because that history is just a generation away. It's alive. And people need to go and see that and walk. I mean, you're literally walking through the exhibit to experience it. Yeah, please see it until March 6th.
And I was struck by the fact that people used to have huge parades on Emancipation Day.
Yes.
And that is something, and there's a picture of Richmond, Virginia, 1905, and the street is packed in every direction with people for this parade celebrating Emancipation Day, which by then would have been, 40 years before or so.
Yeah.
And it said, never forget. And I thought, I think we have forgotten.
And thank goodness.
I think we have.
And thank goodness the Smithsonian cultivated these images. There's an image there. One image that really struck me was an image of Harriet Tubman that I'd not seen because we've always seen the same image of her in the textbooks.
Yeah, you always see the same
one. And that
one.
just struck me, and I thought, oh my gosh, it's just, we need this, and we need these stories to keep them alive, to keep them in our minds, so we can kind of see how far we've come and where else we need to go.
Well, we should let people know this isn't a big time commitment. If you want to buzz through quickly, you can. If you want to stop and study it, you can. If you want to go look up some more things about it to take home and look at and read, you can. But when you walk in, it's like the museum panels, very tall panels, some giant pictures, some small. But what struck me when we first put it up was to walk down the center of it.
Yes.
And on one side are huge blow-up pictures of the March on Washington, and you feel like you were at the March on Washington.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
And the other side is all blow-ups of people who were in the process of being emancipated or waiting to be emancipated, and you have that same effect, that you're just in this crowd of people. So
it is beautifully
very
done.
dramatic, and a great thing to bring your kids to visually involve them. But then the outsides of it, of course, have many, many images and facts and details and things. You can really learn a lot just in a few minutes.
You can. And we do have companion literature there available.
Yeah,
we have
do.
one more event coming up on the 22nd, a film at the main library at 2 o'clock. So it'll be a documentary. So we do have some more things if you want to learn more about it.
Yeah, that's the great thing about the display is it came with some funding so that we could bring in speakers.
Yeah.
And we do have another grant that this Slavery by Another Name, that the film we're going to show with a discussion with it, there's 3 more films on civil rights that we got through a grant that we will have guided discussions at the library, and those are going to be great. We previously had a discussion on the abolitionists in Peoria, which go on down to local history and find out more about that.
Yeah.
Well, Stacy, we're just about out of time, so thank you so much for coming, because I think it's important that we let people know, more in depth than maybe they can get from just seeing it on the webpage, what's going to happen at these various programs.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. We've talked about a lot of events and a lot of programs, and the best way to keep up is to get our Passages newsletter. You can get an e-news version by subscribing on our webpage or asking at the desk to be signed up for it. You can pick up a paper copy. Kid Events has all our events for children. And of course, if you just watch our Facebook page, we almost always have announcements of things that are coming up right then. But all of these things are on our website at peoriapubliclibrary.org. And you can call, you can stop at any of the desks and ask, and we'll be glad to help you find out about the events or any books to go with them. So thank you very much for watching Information Please, and we'll see you next week.